Late night bites with friends? Already hard to beat. That first too hot bite of fries you couldn't wait for, followed by ice cold Pepsi. Now that hits different. Suddenly, the energy kicks back in, the night goes longer, and the laughs don't stop. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Hi, I'm Andrea Claire, and this is my podcast. Are you a powder keg of amazingness waiting for that fuse to ignite? Are you softening your presentation language by starting sentences with, sorry, maybe this is dumb, but, or, sorry, I just have a quick thought on this, or, I could be totally off base here, but what if we... Why, as women, do we do this? My guest today is Kirsten Birkeland, a sought-after corporate communications trainer who has sat across from brilliant, highly qualified execs. Her expertise and experience has revealed that women are still shrinking themselves to fit into rooms they should be running. As the founder of Prep Talk, she's coached everyone from TEDx speakers to Fortune 100 executives at heavy hitters like Nike, Amazon, and Microsoft. But what fires her up the most? Teaching women how to stop fawning, ditch the apologies, and confidently take up space in systems that weren't built to hear them. In this episode, we dive into the infuriating, validating realities as to why women actively adjust their communication styles just to be heard, and why corporate culture continues to penalize women for the exact same directness it rewards in men. I also get real about my own history of shrinking, sharing a prime example of a time I totally did this while sitting across from a creative director back in Singapore. Kirsten takes us through heap eating. When your brilliant idea gets ignored until your male colleague, Chad, steals it and leads with a heap heat in the boardroom. It's kind of like repeating, except for he's fucking stolen it. You will hear the exact real-time script you need to reclaim what was yours in the first place, with authenticity, confidence, clarity, and a whole lot more. Kirsten, welcome to the Fuck You 50s.
I spend my time sitting across from people, helping them make sure that they can stand up in front of people confidently and say what they want to say the way they want to say it.
Are you dealing with executives? Are you dealing with small business people? A bit of all of the above?
It's mostly from the corporate world. So it's everybody from nervous Nellies, right? Like, oh my God, I got feedback from my boss that I need to be better at this, all the way up to I'm already really good at this, but I need to do a keynote and I need to nail it.
Yeah.
All of those people. I started out as a journalist and I very quickly realized that my dream of being the next Woodward and Bernstein and taking down the bad guys was probably not going to happen. And also I was never going to make enough money doing that. Yeah. So I moved into corporate communications and I spent many years doing high-tech PR. And I sat across from these really smart, genius people, literally geniuses. And it occurred to me that just because you're smart doesn't mean you're articulate. Yeah. And I was writing these talking points and speeches for these people, and they could not talk their way out of a paper bag. And so I pivoted. I changed my career. I started learning about adult learning theory and instructional design, and I realized that I wanted to teach them how to talk. Yeah. How to talk good.
Yeah.
So I stayed at the high-tech PR agency I was at, but I started running the communications training team.
Okay.
And so I went all over the world teaching people how to deliver presentations, how to speak to the media, and developed that curriculum over many years. And then eventually went out on my own. And I've been doing that for 15 years.
I guess a lot of what you're dealing with is more like high-performing executives or...
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
And that's really where my niche has become, is people who realize that they're pretty good and they're good enough that they go, hey, I could probably be really good at this. I kind of liken it to a singer or an athlete who is sort of like, hey, I'm pretty good and I deserve to be good enough that I need a coach now.
I feel like there's a lot of jobs that coaching just helps to kind of make you that little bit better. I used to be
Yeah.
on TV here in Canada. And when I first
Yeah.
started, like I'm a bit cocky. I'm sure that probably
Good
comes
for you.
across sometimes. And yes, I had to learn how to kind of open myself up to camera and tark articulately. There we go. Apparently I still need to work on that part. It's interesting too because you're talking about how a lot of highly qualified women in their 40s and 50s start their presentations with like, I'm sorry, like maybe this is dumb. That kind of hesitation of getting into their topic. It's almost like apologizing before you get into it. I guess sometimes too, like maybe we feel like we're out of our element a little bit. But I wanted to tell you this story. When we were living in Singapore, I had this idea for a breast cancer charity there. I had an idea for like a campaign for a shoot. And I was talking to the managing director of this one ad agency. And so I just messaged her and I was like, oh, I just had this like random idea for the charity. And I noticed that your agency is the one that has it. So I gave her a kind of couple little snippets of my idea. Maybe I'm talking too fast today. Let me slow down.
People always do this when they're talking to me. They have that awareness. So
yeah. It's like when someone tells you they're a therapist and all of a sudden you're like very self-aware of like, what am I doing? Where am I looking? How am I holding my hands? So she invited me into her office to discuss it. And then I found out that her creative director of the agency was also going to join us. So I immediately felt super stressed out thinking, here I am, a hair and makeup artist that's going to now give a pitch to the creative director. I kind of did start off stammering with my idea. Like, I don't know, like you guys are the professionals. I'm just a hair and makeup artist. What do I know about these ideas? It took me a while to get my pitch out to them because I was stammering and I had nothing to lose. Like the funny thing is I was bringing them an idea, right? So why do we do that?
Yeah, it's so common, right? We do that all the time. And I think it comes from a number of places. Certainly as women, I think it comes from culture writ large, right? Think back to when we were kids. Think back to the very first time we were taught how to engage with the world. Sugar and spice.
Yeah.
Be nice. Be polite. Be conscious of how you walk through the world, right? Don't take up too much space. I think it comes a lot from that.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to junior high. Think about like, oh my God, look at Tracy. She's so stuck up. We learned really early on not to think too much of ourselves.
Yeah.
When you start getting into the corporate world and you start navigating the hills and valleys of whatever freaking weird corporate culture you're in, it is survival mode. And I think it gets drilled into us really, really fast that we need to be careful. And I think that compounds when you're standing up in front of people and you have adrenaline running through your body. All of that sort of leads to a whole lot of insecurity, a lot of uncertainty, and that comes out into our language.
Yeah.
It helps us feel safer if we minimize our language. It's sort of like packing on a life preserver, packing on safety all around us if we minimize our language. And of course, it doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
All it does is, it just makes us sound insecure. It minimizes the power of the language that we could have, right? It's much stronger to come up and say, I feel really strongly about this idea. This is a great idea. And I really want to walk you through the 3 reasons I think this is powerful for you.
Yeah.
That's stronger than saying, I know that this is probably, maybe you're busy, but let me walk you through why this is a good idea, right?
Yeah.
What we have to do is give ourselves grace for that little girl inside of us. Talk to her a little bit before we go into that room and say, okay, I know you're scared. Right? And then bring in the Wonder Woman inside of us, or whatever that persona it needs to be. Beyonce calls it Sasha.
Yeah.
Right? Find whatever that persona is. Say goodbye to that insecure girl. Let her go for that 5 minutes that you need to be in that room. But it's a really natural thing to have happen. And I love that you knew that it was happening, because that self-awareness is so important.
Yeah. Self-awareness also can be a killer, right?
Oh God. At first, yeah. But it ultimately is the pathway to the biggest strength we can have. Because if we don't have that self-awareness, we can't get to the next level.
I definitely agree with that. I find that I don't know if it's relatable or not, but like I've been taking improv for the past year and a half.
Love it.
I love it so much. I've been doing a bit of show runs as well, but I find I was saying this to one of my instructors not that long ago because I said I feel like the more I learn and the more feedback that I'm getting, which the feedback is great, like the feedback is good for helping for growth, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's making me almost too self-aware. And I don't know what that kind of block is. And I don't know if that also kind of goes with like speaking publicly. If you get all this feedback, but then you become like, am I doing all right? Is this like kind of the same kind of steps that people go through with that kind of speaking training?
It's sort of like the first step, right? Having that self-awareness in the moment. And that's why I use a camera so much, because that self-awareness has to be paired with your ability to see your evolution. So we all have to have that cringe moment of like, oh my God, I hate watching myself, etc. And it's such a powerful moment to see yourself go, oh, I see what I'm doing there. Because if you can distance yourself from what I call sort of like the cringe moment or that
Mhm.
self-hatred of like, oh my God, if you can get past that and look at yourself with some critical distance of like, oh my God, I see what I did with my voice there. Oh, wait, let me do it again. Let me do it again. I can get better.
Yeah.
Then you have some passion for who you are as a speaker. And what I see happen time and time again is we develop sort of this love for who we are as a speaker and a desire to get better and better and better.
I was going to ask you too, like comparatively, when you're dealing with men versus women, do you see like a difference in how they are with what they need?
There's a fascinating difference between men and women initially in a couple ways. The one that strikes me the most that comes to mind first is that when I do sort of the initial discussion, I ask the same question of men and women. Tell me two things you really love about how you communicate. And both men and women do the same thing. They go, let me think about it. Okay. And men eventually say, okay, here are the two things I really like. And they give me the two things. And women, 100% of them do the same thing. And they go, well, I hate this and I hate this. And you have to remember what I asked was, what do you love?
Right.
And women are so quick to demean themselves, to criticize themselves, to focus on what they hate. And that is a weakness that we all need to get over. That is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because the second thing that I see is that women have more innate speaking strengths and communication strengths than men by far. Why are we not going to what those are? We have much stronger ability to look at things from a 360-degree view. And as presenters, when we're standing up in front of people, oh my God, that's such a strength on so many levels. We can read the room. We can pivot more quickly.
Mm.
We can tell a story much more efficiently than men. So many more strengths that women have. And we're sitting there saying the communication equivalent of I hate my thighs. That's
Yeah.
bullshit. So what I would say in terms of the way men and women are different is that women have got to stop thinking about what we don't like.
It's interesting when you said like you asked everyone what's the two things that they love. And honestly, in my mind, I'm thinking of my answer and I was thinking, well, what I don't like is
Yeah. Yeah. I really want us to get past that. If I say, what do you like about yourself? You can say, well, I photograph better from the right side and I look better in a wrap dress and a boxy sweater and I look better in green than I do in coral. Great. Physical appearance matters, and I can give you statistics on how much the visual element of presentation matters over the verbal element. There are statistics around that. Yes, absolutely. And you got to have words coming out of your mouth. You have to have something to say. You have to have a point of view. So let's get on it because we all have something to say. Our voices are so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I feel really strongly about that, as you can tell.
Absolutely. I was also thinking too that sometimes I feel like my responses would also be like, well, what people have said to me are like versus like what I would think about
Yeah.
myself. I have been told by people throughout my life, even when I was in high school, that people find me intimidating and that I need to dial that back. And I
Bullshit.
Well, the
Sorry.
funny thing is, thank you. The funny thing is, I personally don't find myself intimidating. That's definitely not my intention of how I want myself to be perceived. But then the way it's delivered to me sometimes is that it's my fault. Like I need to adjust myself to not be intimidating. Do you get that too with some of the people that you work with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I would say is that that's a very interesting strength to explore. Now, if it's coming across as intimidating to men and women and groups in all scenarios, then what I would say is that that is a muscle that is being used not in the wrong way, but in a way that's not serving you.
Right.
So let's adapt that muscle, right? That means that you're a very strong, ballsy, badass speaker, and it's not being received in a way that's serving you.
Right.
So let's find out how to make sure that it serves you in the right way. That doesn't mean that you're a bad speaker. It just means that that muscle isn't serving you. So let's adapt it.
That is so interesting. And yeah, I would say that I've heard it from a mix of people. So it hasn't been any particular group. So yeah, I'm curious what it is that I do that that sends out that message.
Let's put you on camera in a bunch of different scenarios and let's see, because I think that the whole intimidating thing, it's such bullshit, first of all, because that word has so many negative connotations and it doesn't need to. I think it means you're powerful.
Right.
And I think that means it scares people. So let's find out why, because I think that means there's power there. And let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater because it's a bad word. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's my first thought.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna take that. I know that there's a misconception about how great speakers are born ready, and clearly they're not. How can we spread that word that it is just a misconception that people are not born ready to be speakers?
Wouldn't it be nice, right, if we were just born ready to just speak beautifully? Part of it has to do with this idea of awareness that it is not. Like, I worked with this speaker once, fairly recently, on her very first keynote, and she didn't want anyone to know that she had worked with a speaker coach. And I saw on her LinkedIn when people said, "Great, oh my God, your speech was so great," and she could have tagged me, and she didn't. That's, I mean, whatever, right? But and then by contrast, I took a group of women to Italy a couple years ago to
I
really
saw that.
concentrate on this. Yeah, it was amazing. And she was entirely different. She was like, I want to make this my superpower. I'm already really good. And I want this to be part of my DNA. I want this to be my superpower. She shouted it from the rooftops. Every time somebody comes up to her and says, "You're a great speaker," she says, "Great. Thank you. I've been working on it for a couple of years. I work with a coach. I went to Italy for 5 days. I make it part of my DNA." She says it to everybody because she wants people to know that she's like an Olympic athlete.
Yes.
That she works on it. And I would love to see people normalize that discussion that this is hard.
Yeah. I wonder why that is too, because clearly there's no shame in getting help in whatever way, shape, or form that is. Even in my industry as a hair and makeup artist, I work a lot with models and celebrities, and the amount of times that hair and makeup artists are not tagged and how we get work is kind of referrals and getting tagged and whatever. It's like, I know you did not do your own hair and makeup.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that is.
So interesting. It's so funny. I just had a big milestone birthday party and I went to somebody to do my makeup, which I had never done before. And everybody said, "Oh my God, you look so great." And it didn't occur to me. It felt dishonest of me not to say, "Oh my God, thank you. I went and had my makeup done." Like it felt really weird to like pretend that I had done it. Like, I don't have these skills.
Yeah, I wonder too if it's and like similar when people are like, "Oh, I love your dress," and you're like, "Oh my God, thank you! It was on sale at like TJ Maxx, and it has pockets."
Exactly right.
But then there's some people that are like, "Oh, I don't know where I got this. It was like some boutique somewhere. I think maybe I was in Florence. I don't know."
It's true. I do want to add one other thing that men are a little better about saying they're willing to work on this than women.
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Gray roots entering the chat? Uninvited? Garnier's got you. Garnier Color Sensation Root Retouch covers up to 100% of grays in just 10 minutes. No ammonia, no mess, and the color lasts up to 4 weeks. It's as easy to apply as shampoo. Plus, it's vegan and cruelty-free. 10 minutes. Sensational color, sensational price. With those savings, your next girls' night is basically free. Find your perfect match at walmart.com or at a store near you.
I had an executive, and he brought me in to his company. He brought me into the front of the room with, I don't know, like 90 employees. And he said, "This is Kirsten. I have decided to work on my presentation skills. She's going to follow me around. I want you to talk to her about how you see me presenting myself and coming across and communicating in general, both on one-on-one with you, in team meetings, and up on the stage. Give her feedback." And I followed him around with the camera, blah, 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 blah. He was so open about it. And do you not think that everybody who followed him thought he had the biggest balls in that entire company? That was the feedback I got from everybody, was like, wow, I have more respect for him than I did before. And so, it's one thing I think that women can do is sort of call out that they want to be the Olympic athlete. They want to be the professional singer. Yeah. In answer to your question.
How would you suggest to people to give feedback? Like, if you are open to taking feedback about how you present, there's some people that could be a bit too critical when they're giving feedback. So not that you want to like sugarcoat it necessarily either, but let's just say somebody asked me for feedback on how they presented. Do you have any tips for me to kind of give that feedback where it's helpful?
Unfortunately, it's just sort of that idea of sandwich. Like, start with what really impacted you positively. I really liked, this is what impacted me the most. And then talk about what would have impacted you even more. Right? So like, gosh, that story that you told about X, Y, and Z, and I would have really caught more of it if you had slowed down even more. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I found that you talked a little too fast for me to catch all of X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I felt that for a moment. That's great, because I do like, just to put it parallel with like the improv world. I'm one of those people now, like I've drank the improv Kool-Aid, and I see the parallels in so many things with it as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about that, because I'm really interested in heading down that road.
Oh my God. Honestly, I love it so much. And I do believe that everyone should experience it. Whether, like, if you want to perform or not, like, just because you take improv doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to be a performer. But it's just, I find it helpful. I feel like I always have been kind of quick thinking, and I've been told I'm funny. I think I'm funny, whatever. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I'm trying to get somebody on from the improv circuit to be a guest on my podcast. So I keep bugging one of my instructors, and I don't know if I've bugged her too much and she's ignoring me, or anyway. Why do you think that women entering their prime are still feeling like they need to ask permission for their space in the room?
It goes back to what we talked about earlier, right? It's all of that stuff from childhood. Taking up space, it causes us to enter into a place where we feel vulnerable, right? It's going into a place where there's an audience opens us up to judgment. And that is a really scary place too, certainly. It also is a question of, a lot of people don't know what they have to say, or they question whether they have anything to say. And that's something I hear a lot. A lot of women will say things like, well, matter of fact, I just heard this at a family reunion. I have this cousin, or his wife, who's known in her small town as just an excellent speaker. Everybody says, oh, let's get her to talk. Let's get Doris to talk. And I talked to her about it. I said, have you ever considered doing a TED Talk? And she's like, oh God, I don't know anything I have to say somebody's already said. Yeah, everything that's ever been said has already been said or thought before. Like, whatever fucking Socrates said, I'm telling you, there was a serving girl who thought of it before he did, right?
Yeah,
But
I love that.
your voice is unique. And I guarantee you, your take on something is unique. So don't let that stop you. I think that's a really important thing that we forget all the time.
That's a good point. I also find too that sometimes even if you hear kind of the same messaging but differently, it just kind of reinforces some great messages. Does
Yep.
that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. You're right.
Have you seen that movie? Fuck. I'm sorry. I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to look it up. Ladies First.
Oh, yes, I have seen that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rosamund Pike and Sacha Baron
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Conan. Yeah, Ladies First. That's the
Oh
movie.
my God, that's so good.
There's that scene where they're in the boardroom that I feel like a lot of women can relate to, where they're in the boardroom. Rosamund Pike's character, she's like in charge, and Sacha Baron Conan's character is trying to get a word in edgewise, and all the women are just shushing him. And then in my notes, which I think is it a word from you, or is it a word that like he peated, like repeating, somebody going in, like taking your idea and repeating it in the boardroom, but I love the he peated.
Keep eating. Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for that for women that are trying to be heard in the boardroom? I'm sure like your coaching with speaking is going to help with that as well.
It depends on the context and the situation and the company culture, of course, and where you are. But there are a couple techniques that I give most often. One is you can just be really direct. And I kind of call this the Kamala, you know, how she just said, I'm speaking. You can kind of do the same thing and you can just call it out. And you can say something like, let me stop you right there, Chad. I want to make sure before you start to take the wheel on this, to bring us back to the main point, which is, and then you go back and you talk about why you suggested the program in the first place.
Right.
Which is, these kids really need this program. And so the reason I proposed this program in the first place is that little Joshua is not going to get the milk he needs in his second grade. And so let's go back to when we're going to launch this program. And then you go back to a detail of the program and you just take control of the discussion again. So that's one technique.
Yeah.
Another technique is sort of called the acknowledge and steal. And that's where Chad has taken control of the discussion. He's starting to talk like this is his idea.
It's always the Chad.
Yes, it's always a Chad. And so you listen opportunistically for a point where Chad is going to say something, where you have an opportunity, and you're going to actually acknowledge what Chad is saying. You're going to make it sound like you're agreeing with Chad for a second. You're not. You're acknowledging Chad's point, but you're going to use that as a way to steal it. So let's say Chad is talking about this program, and he's getting really confident, and he's talking about the press release. And so then you say, Chad, you're right. The press release, I think 3 weeks is a good time frame to release the press release. And as we're talking about marketing, I want to back up a little bit because Joe and Kate, you guys are going to be the ones who are thinking about marketing. And so as we go back to the marketing of this, blah, 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 blah. And the more you can say my program, my initial discussion, me, blah, 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 all the better. But you're basically going to steal it.
Yeah, it's interesting too. There's a lot of women that I speak to where they're almost apprehensive of owning their idea.
Yep. Yeah.
And
why is that?
I'm hoping that we get out of it. I just think like during our conversation, like the thought in the back of my head too, I have 3 daughters, and I swear each of my daughters throughout their years of school, we've been told from parent-teacher conferences, like, I just want to hear from her more. I just want her to put her hand up, engage in the conversations more. And I understand why they do that. I understand why they encourage people to speak. And I'm not a teacher in a classroom, so I don't know how that unfolds. But you just wonder how much of that also is again, I mean, we've never brought up our kids to be quiet by not with this as their mother. But just environment kind of keeps that pattern going. I don't know how you feel about this, but I also think too, there's some people that are also just They kind of speak when they feel like they have something important to say.
Yeah. It's really relevant. And I have this thing that I teach in class called flagging phrases. And it's a way to sometimes start talking, and it's a way to stop talking. And
I need
sometimes
that
it's a
one.
way, yeah, yeah, right. Because sometimes we find ourselves rambling. I call it our inner second grader, right? Where we want to sort of show what we know.
Yeah.
And how many times have you found yourself where you're like, oh shit, I got to stop talking. I'm rambling,
Oh my God,
right?
every fucking day of my life. I feel like
Right.
it's a hairstylist thing. But anyway, sorry. I'll
No,
stop
no, I'm
talking.
convinced. I'm convinced. I call it the inner second grader because I think it was about in second grade where we learned that you get a pat on the head when you know something. It's like there are 9 planets in the solar system, and the Earth is the third one from the sun, and Mercury is the one that's closest to the sun, and Mars is closest to us. And you get a pat on the head. And I think that translates when you, especially in a corporate environment, and you're standing up in front of somebody, somehow that it's like when you start talking, it's like taking off in a plane.
Yep.
And then you're talking, and that inner second grader busts into the cockpit and holds a gun to your head and says, keep talking. You have to tell them everything you know, or they're going to think you're stupid. And then you start feeling like you have to keep talking. And then you realize you're like, oh shit, I have to land the plane.
Yeah.
And then you land the plane, but then you're like, oh, I better say, and, and, and then that landing, which could be a very lovely, definitive moment, because people listen most closely to the first thing you say and the last thing you say.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be landing like, and that is all I have to say, definitive.
End scene.
But
Yeah.
instead, you're like, and, right? Let me bring you back. The
Yep.
flagging phrases that I was talking about can help you take off smoothly and land smoothly, and to bring it back if you find yourself rambling at 30,000 feet.
Sorry, I just laughed because it's me. 100%. That's me.
100%. So these flagging phrases give you sort of something to keep in your mouth that you can use, that you almost don't have to think about. You
Mhm.
choose one or two of these phrases that you can just keep. So when I was a public spokesperson, I used to work at a university and I was interviewed all the time.
Yep.
And my flagging phrase that I used all the time was, it all comes down to one thing. I would phrase it differently. It really comes down to one thing. When you think about it, it all comes down to one idea. As we come to the end of this quarter of classes, it comes down to one thing for these students, right?
Yeah.
It's all the same thing, but I didn't have to frickin' think about it. And I knew that the next thing I was going to say was one sentence and I was going to stop talking.
Brilliant.
Or if I was going to start talking and I had cameras in my face and I had to start a statement, as we start this quarter for these students, it really comes down to one thing for them to be concerned about. And that was my takeoff.
Yep.
So I just didn't need to think, right? And so when I train people, and this is especially effective in media training, where we're like, holy shit, I know everything about this topic. Well, a good flagging phrase is going to be, as we talk about the new technology we're launching, there are a couple things I'd like you to know. Well, that immediately narrows your focus to 2 things
Yes.
instead of the 700 things you could talk about makeup, right?
Yeah.
Andrea, tell me everything you know about what people should know about makeup. Well, your brain is so full of things, but if you can say, there are a couple important things for you to know.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a
So
lot of
flagging
sense.
phrases can be helpful.
What is the single biggest muscle women need to start building when they hit their 50s? Is it confidence or?
Well, that's such an important question. The caveat is that we're all such individual creatures, right? Like, the first answer that comes to mind is this dinner I had with a friend of mine last night, because she has this incredible voice. It's sort of this sexy, deep voice, and she works in this great corporate environment. And so I envision her around this table, this boardroom table, having this gravitas and
Mhm.
telling these men about what to do. But she has no volume. And so the thing she needs to work on is her volume.
Hmm.
So we all have our own thing, right?
Yeah.
But writ large, what we all need to work on is our self-awareness. We all need to understand what is the one strength that we have as a communicator. Maybe it's the top 2.
Okay.
And then what are the top 2 weaknesses that we have? And then here's the special sauce to think about this like a professional presenter.
Uh-huh.
You need to think of yourself like an Olympic athlete. Get a couple friends together, ask them for feedback on your speaking. Do a brown bag at work or something like that. Ask for feedback. What are the 2 things I do really well? What are the 2 things I could do better? And then when you get that feedback, don't look at the 2 things you can do better and be like, oh my God, I suck. This is an assassination on my character. I'm never going to get better. Take that feedback like Simone Biles would take it from her coach. You have to look at it as a way to improve.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do the thing that most of us do when we get feedback. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. 100%. Because
Yeah.
I feel like that's what I do when I get feedback for things.
Yes, we all do.
And then I obsess over it, and I obsess to kind of overcompensate to make that
Right.
better.
But what if we just got curious? What if the feedback you got was, you fidgeted with your hands too much and your story was too circular. I needed it to be more linear.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're like, I wonder why I was so circular. Wonder how I could make that story more linear. Wow, I wonder how I could do that. What if you just got curious?
Right.
Or what if it was like, you need to speak more loudly? Whatever the feedback is, if you just didn't take it personally and you just got curious.
It's almost like if you could take that feedback that's given for you and think of like, let me pretend my friend got that feedback and how would I help her?
Oh, that's good.
You're welcome. You can have that.
That's really good. I love it. I'm going to take that. That's really good advice.
I do that for myself sometimes with like when I get dressed and do my hair and makeup and stuff because I'm at this weird headspace right now at 55. I don't love how I look, and I feel like there's a lot of women that kind of go through the same thing. And so what I do now is, this is the first time I'm sharing this information with anybody, but what I do now is when I get dressed and I'm doing my makeup and I'm sitting in front of the mirror, I think of if someone would say to me like, oh, I look like crap, this doesn't look good on me, what advice I would give that person. So I'm trying to have an out-of-body experience. I'm sure a therapist will listen to this and go, Andrea really needs help right now.
No, it's great. It's great
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to the core of your question. It's such a good question. It's an important one because the best speakers are the ones who know what they're good at. They know what they're bad at, and they look at both of those agnostically.
Yeah.
They can look at them dispassionately and be like, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm not good at that. And I know how to pivot so that I can maximize the good and pivot around the bad.
Kirsten, what do you think, like, in your opinion, if somebody is really wanting to be, like, I guess, self-reflective, how can you do, like, a solid self-assessment?
Well, the best speakers are really those who have a really good sense of what they're good at and what they're not good at. And they're sort of agnostic about both, as we talked about. And so I think it's really important to have a sense of what muscles you're working with.
Uh-huh.
So have a sense of like, here are my strongest muscles, the things I'm really good at. These are my strongest muscles. And have a sense of here are the muscles that are weakest for me. And understand these are the ones that I'm going to be working on. And just know what you're going to work on. Don't have a sense of this is what I suck at.
Mm-hmm.
But here are the 2 or 3 or 4 things that I'm going to be working on over time. And look at those as positives, not negatives.
Right. Okay. There's a mix of people that use cue cards when they're presenting, and some that obviously have
teleprompter.
Thank you, teleprompter. Do you have any opinion on that? Whether people use like whatever their need is, or do you think people should memorize?
Well, I have found that people who rely too much on notes and teleprompters tend to lose the ability to ever connect with their audience. in a really deep and meaningful way. And over time, that reliance becomes something they can't get away from. So if you get to the point where you find you're relying too much on that, just know that that will eventually become a liability. Similarly, if you become a person who is so focused on, like, I've got to memorize every word, that also is a liability because you are similarly not going to connect with your audience. The happy middle is that you start to understand the flow of your content. You understand, here's section 1, here's section 2, here's section 3, and I've got talking points in section 1, and I memorize my talking points. I'm going to hit this point, this point, this point, but I'm not memorizing
a script.
Text,
a
script. That's where you get into trouble.
Which could also be on your weak muscles.
Correct.
Because you've worked with a lot of people that have done TED Talks, if somebody wanted to do a TED Talk, how would they go about doing that?
Well, people who are TED Talk speakers, they never nominate themselves. They are always nominated by somebody else. The second is really that they've done that talk a lot. The way that it gets to the TEDx, the local franchises generally, is that, as I said, they're nominated by somebody else, but it's been videotaped because they've given it at some local event 800 times, right? And then the third thing is that those TEDx franchises love a provocative title. So whatever you're speaking about, think about what the tag is.
For TEDx, their official tagline is "Ideas change everything," and the formal tagline was "Ideas worth spreading."
Ideas worth spreading. Thank you.
Okay.
And there's a whole bunch of sort of requirements that go in. Don't ever try to go to a TED to try to push your book or your product. That will never, ever happen. But if you have an idea that you think is compelling, that you think is going to change somebody's mind, it can be a really wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
I can imagine. And the ones that I have seen, it's just the confidence, the strength, their delivery. I don't think I've ever watched a TED Talk where I've been like, oh, well, that was unfortunate. But I guess they really filter through once they get to that point. Have you ever done a TED Talk?
No. Mm-mm.
Huh. I feel like you would be.
Should.
Yeah, you should do a TED Talk.
I should do a TED Talk about TED Talks.
Yes. That to me makes all the sense in the world.
There we go.
Just to get back to women and being told to speak softly at work and in the corporate sphere. I have a friend of mine who works in corporate, and they said that it seems to happen often with women in the corporate industry. And she had been told to soften her emails by adding emojis. Have you heard that before?
Listen, I've worked with so many different companies. The breadth of different corporate cultures involved, I've heard everything.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
When she told me that, and I thankfully have never worked in corporate. I work on set, like I was saying, like hair and makeup, and I've done advertising campaigns and stuff. So I've worked alongside corporate people, and I've done contracts with beauty companies where I'm having to deal with like their corporate side of things. It's crazy.
It sounds insane. I worked with one company where they brought me in to teach their teams how to write emails. These were corporate executives that didn't know how to write emails that were efficient. They needed me to come in to tell their teams not to reply all when saying things like the CEO would say, you know, we're launching on Thursday. Here are the guidelines. And then, you know, 175 employees would all reply all, okay. So they brought me in, they paid me money to design a training that said, don't reply all.
I love that. You're like, I'll take your money. I'll teach that. No problem. I'll get a call sheet for my workday for a shoot, and I'll get it from the production manager. And usually they're pretty good at not doing like CC. Like usually it's all like blind copy. And I'm always so hesitant. Like, should I acknowledge that I got the call sheet because they also need to know that I know what time I'm coming to work. And I'm always like sheepishly, like I reply, again, it's usually BCC, but I'll reply and I'll just say, I don't know. You're probably getting like 100 messages saying I got it. But yeah, my family is guilty for that. It actually drives me crazy. It's like there'll be a Thanksgiving planning and then it's like, who's going to bring the buns? Who's going to bring the pie? Who's going to bring like whatever? And then everybody's replying all. And I've said to my mom, when you start the thread for any holiday, put me in blind copy because I'm so fucking sick and tired of all like, I don't care who's bringing what. I don't care who's got the sniffles. I don't care who's driving with who. Like, I don't need all that information at all. Tell me what time to show up and what to bring. And I'll tell you if I'm coming.
And if I get too many thumbs up, I'm not coming.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out of here. Oh my God. You called women a powder keg of amazingness, which I love that. If we could just get out of our own way for a woman who is listening right now, who has shrunk herself, what is the step one to lighting that fuse?
I think the step one is to realize that you have such a powerful voice and you have no idea how powerful it is. I feel so passionately about this. There are millions of women out there who have something to say. And I don't mean it in the, let me see your manager. I have no more fucks to give. And so I'm going to be loud and angry. I don't mean that. We don't need that. There's no point for that.
Yeah.
There's too much of that.
So yeah, that's a space for certain women that we need to take that space away from them.
That's not what I mean when I say you have a voice. Please don't do that. But I see it every day that there are women who just automatically question themselves. And it's what I said earlier about women who just will immediately minimize themselves. They will immediately say, oh no, I don't have anything to say. And you do. Stop and think for a minute. What moves you when you look at Instagram? What are your values? What do you care about? What do you think about? What gets you fired up? You know what? You have a point of view about that. You have a voice about that. And you don't have to get up in front of people and talk about it, but you can. Mm-hmm. And you have a voice that is more powerful than you could possibly know. And you have a right to use it. And I hope you do.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fuck You 50s. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate the podcast. And we would love to connect with you on Instagram. So be sure to follow us at the Fuck You 50s. The Fuck You 50s is hosted by Andrea Claire. See you next time.
I see you.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole fam.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar: Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month. Even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.